is Sheila Taylor, and I'm running for the office of Public School Board Trustee in Wards 11 and 13. Well, I'm very interested and concerned about education, both as a taxpayer in Calgary and as a parent of young children who will be using and attending our schools for a long time to come. And I became more interested, in this past year, attending some of the school board trustee meetings, sort of seeing what went on there. And at the same time I was interested, it also elevated my concern that, we really need strong management on the board, and I would like to see that happen. And I'm very community minded, and it's important to me to be involved in my community, and this to me was just the natural next step. Well, I've already been out talking to a lot of people in the community, and I've been asking them what they think the issues are. And I think one thing I'm happy to hear is that for the most part, people are really pleased with the public schools, and they're happy with the teachers there. But at the same time, there's definitely some issues. And, I think there's probably 3 issues that I keep coming up against. And the first is sort of the community engagement process. We have the Calgary Board of Education come out to the communities and ask people what they think about certain initiatives, but the perspective seems to be that they're coming once the decision has already been made. And things like school programming changes and school closures, people want to be part of these decisions, and they're just feeling like they're there right at the end. So we need to take another look at that. We need to engage people at the start of the process. We need to help people in the community understand what the options are and let them contribute ideas. And that way the end product is something that everyone can support much better. So I think that's the first issue. The second issue, especially where I'm running in wards 11 and 13, and throughout a lot of the city actually, there's a big issue with schools that are aging. In Calgary we have a couple hundred, over 200 school buildings, and the vast majority of them are over 40 years old. So, you're looking at big problems developing with things like ventilation systems, windows, and even accessibility to the schools for people in wheelchairs that just wasn't in place when those schools were built. So people are very concerned about that. When I look at the schools that my children will attend in the future, I'm concerned that they don't really look up to par. And that's all part of the capital budgeting process that, the school board puts together, and then it's approved and funded through the province for the most part. So I'm concerned there. We have put together a capital budget 2 years in a row and have not had one project approved by the province. So something's obviously not working there, and we need to figure out a solution. If I was trustee, I would take a really strong look at that capital budgeting system and say, what, let's engage the province better. I already sat down just last week with the MLA for Calgary West, Dave Rodney, and him and I came up with some great ideas on how to move those types of projects forward, and I think that's the kind of thing we need to do. We need to sit down with our MLAs and also with the public and figure out what the priorities are. There are other options than just putting together the same budget year after year and then having the entire budget turned down, every single project. So, there's other ways to fund this. We have a lot of real estate that I don't think we're getting all the money out of that we can. We can improve the lease rates for empty buildings. We can improve the lease rates for schools that we're using and rent these facilities out more. That's just one idea that I have on how to get some of these projects moving, because we need our schools to stay up to grade before we come across big things like safety issues, right? And that's the second issue. The third issue is one that we saw in the news a lot, and I think that most people are familiar with, and that is the budget for Calgary Board of Education. I've got a fly buzzing around me. It was in the news a lot in the spring and fall, and there were a lot of people, parents especially, concerned about pretty significant budget cuts that were happening, running large deficits at the same time as using up all of the reserve cash that the board has been saving up for years. And at the end of the day, you know, there was just real confusion about what kind of impacts there were going to be on our schools and our classrooms and on our teachers. So obviously that process is not working, right? The province did not honor their commitment to pay teacher raises, and then finally this summer came through with that funding, and that was wonderful. But now at this point, me as a citizen, as a taxpayer, I don't even know what that budget looks like, because that came after the budgeting process. So again, we need to talk more effectively with the province and really get our act together, get the province to honor these commitments that they're making at the union table, and have a more consistent budgeting process and make sense to everybody. And are we looking at, again, some creative ideas? What isn't working? Is it the timing? Is it, you know, the interactions between different departments at the Calgary Board of Education? Let's take a look at that. I have a sort of a financial background. I've worked in big business and big accounting departments, and I know how budgets operate and how to get things done. And as a trustee, I'd like to see an improvement in the budgeting process, because, you know, we have a big job to do. Well, I think it's tough to choose who to vote for. And when you're voting, you need to pick somebody who has a track record of success. And I think when you look at Sheila Taylor, you're looking at someone who has a track record of success and of showing that I care about my community. First, I'm already very involved in my community. I've spent the past year as the treasurer of my local school council, my daughter's school, and that was a great experience, and it really opened my eyes to what some of the issues are at our schools. And it also just let me, you know, see our schools from the perspective of a parent and hear what other parents' concerns are. I'm also on the board of directors of the local community association, so, you know, I hear what are the concerns in my neighborhood, and that's also been very worthwhile. Secondly, I have the business experience and the business track record that will make a big difference. The Calgary Board of Education is a $1 billion organization, and that's a lot to manage. I have management experience at big Canadian companies. I've looked at the numbers, I've managed staffs, worked in unionized environments in the past, and I think I can bring a lot to the table looking at our costs. You know, we've got a lot of work to do on costs, like I've talked about today. And to do that, there's going to be some pretty serious trade-offs that need to happen. And I think I'm the person that can help that work effectively. And that's why I think you should vote for me.